The human desire to completely reinvent oneself is one of the most powerful and terrifying impulses an artist can experience, especially when their entire identity has been meticulously constructed by others from a very young age. We often look at the glitz and glamour of public success and assume that those who achieve it have found their ultimate purpose. Yet beneath the polished surface of fame lies a quiet, simmering, and desperate need for authentic expression. For years, the world looks at a specific face on a television screen and decides exactly who that person is, trapping them within a tight cage of expectations and predetermined scripts. Breaking out of that cage does not happen overnight. It requires an immense amount of internal courage, a willingness to vanish from the blinding spotlight completely, and the strength to embrace the absolute silence of a blank page. It is a journey into the unknown where the safety net of past achievements is deliberately stripped away, leaving only the raw, untested potential of a brand new creative voice. This specific type of profound transformation is exactly what brings us to the edge of a remarkable new narrative shift in the global literary landscape today. The arduous path from being a public figure who is constantly spoken for to becoming an independent writer who commands the room with their own words is paved with deep internal conflict, intense personal doubt, and an unrelenting drive to uncover uncomfortable truths that society often prefers to keep completely hidden from view. To truly understand the immense weight of this creative evolution, we have to look back a few years to a moment when the literary world was completely blindsided by an autobiographical phenomenon that defied all conventional publishing expectations. In the year 2022, a deeply personal, raw, and unflinchingly honest memoir shook the very foundation of the global bestseller lists, capturing the attention of millions of readers who were instantly captivated by its dark humor, sharp prose, and uncompromising vulnerability. It was a heavy story that absolutely needed to be told, serving as a definitive, cathartic closing chapter to a deeply painful past and establishing its author not just as a former child star, but as a formidable, sharp-witted literary force to be reckoned with. But long before that massive wave of global recognition and critical acclaim washed over her, there was a young woman sitting in absolute isolation at the age of 24, having just made the terrifying decision to walk away from a highly lucrative acting career that no longer fulfilled her soul. Before we delve deeper into the dark, gripping world of her latest psychological breakthrough, take a brief moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you never miss these detailed, cinematic deep dives into the lives and minds of the world's most compelling storytellers. Back then, during those early years of intense transition, there were absolutely no guarantees of success, no packed bookstores, and no critical adoration. There were only endless days of terrifying uncertainty, long moments of overwhelming anxiety spent crying over unfinished manuscript pages, and a simple, desperate hope that writing could provide even a single paycheck to validate choosing a completely new future. The delicate process of discovering an authentic artistic voice is rarely a linear path. More often than not, it is a grueling, isolated marathon that takes place entirely in the dark, far away from the prying eyes of the public and the harsh judgments of industry critics. For 5 long years after permanently walking away from the cameras and the studio sets, this dedicated creator poured her entire being into every imaginable form of the written word, quietly crafting theatrical plays, teleplays, feature screenplays, short films, and short stories that were never originally meant to see the light of day. This hidden, uncelebrated apprenticeship was absolutely essential to her growth, acting as a safe sanctuary where the rough edges of her unique style could be meticulously smoothed out and where the harsh inner critic could be temporarily silenced to allow raw, honest emotion to flow freely onto the page. It was a developmental period defined by an instinctual, almost physical necessity to write, a deep internal knowing that her body and mind had to at least try to forge this new path, regardless of the massive financial or emotional risks involved in the process. During this intense era of self-discovery, the foundational elements were quietly laid for something much larger and more impactful, as the writer learned to fully embrace the chaotic, messy reality of early drafts, which she would later come to casually refer to as her vomit drafts. This unique literary methodology required a total suspension of self-doubt, allowing the initial completely unfiltered rush of complex ideas to escape onto paper before the meticulous, exhausting process of deep revision could begin. A process that would eventually require dozens of iterations before a piece was finally deemed ready for the world. It was during this prolonged, intense period of creative exploration that a singular, highly intriguing narrative spark was first ignited, born on a solitary journey across the world that would take many years to fully materialize into a complete, polished work of fiction. Imagine sitting completely alone on a sleek bullet train speeding effortlessly through the beautiful, mist-covered landscapes of Japan, completely disconnected from the relentless noise of past fame, when a sudden, distinct image of a character named Waldo and her complex, high-stakes relationship with an older writing teacher named Mr. Corgi first flashes vividly into your mind. At 24 years old, the idea was merely a fleeting whisper, a fascinating concept that was promptly filed away deep in the subconscious, while life and other massive literary triumphs took center stage. Yet, true stories have a persistent, haunting way of returning to their creators, demanding to be told when the psychological timing is finally perfect. Years later, that initial train-born spark would return with an undeniable, fierce urgency, initiating a grueling 2-year writing process that would push the author to her absolute limits. Involving nearly 20 complete drafts and endless nights of rewriting until 2 in the morning. This brings us directly to the present moment, where the literary community stands on the precipice of a highly anticipated new era, as this proven master of non-fiction officially steps into the unpredictable, thrilling world of fiction. Delivering a story filled with intense psychological depth, atmospheric tension, and a profound exploration of human desire that promises to change everything we thought we knew about her storytelling. The transition from a raw, autobiographical memoir to a fully realized work of fiction marks a critical juncture in a writer's life, a moment where the comforting guardrails of personal memory are completely removed, forcing the creator to construct an entire universe out of pure imagination, emotional truth, and thematic intent. When Jennette McCurdy decided to follow up her historic, chart-topping literary debut with her first official novel, titled Half His Age, she knew she was entering a highly competitive and deeply scrutinized arena where the expectations would be astronomically high. The sheer momentum of her past success meant that the world would be looking at every single sentence through a magnifying glass, searching for glimpses of the author herself within the fictional constructs of her new characters. To survive this immense pressure, she had to fully submerge herself in a relentless, highly disciplined daily routine that required a total detachment from the digital world and its endless, exhausting distractions. Writing this intricate novel was not a casual endeavor, but a fierce, all-consuming battle against the inner critic, a process that occupied the first year of development with an absolute, singular focus that demanded everything she had to give. She would wake up early in the morning, brew a fresh cup of coffee, brush her teeth, change into her working clothes, and immediately plunge directly into the complex world of her characters, completely refusing to check her mobile phone until the exhausting writing day had come to a definitive end. This radical level of isolation was so incredibly vital to the preservation of her creative voice that she went as far as changing her persona, phone number multiple times throughout the writing process, effectively cutting off the outside world to ensure that no external noise could disrupt the delicate, high-stakes psychological tension she was building on the page. In the second year of production, which stretched throughout the long months of 2025, the intensity of this grueling creative marathon reached a fever pitch as she found herself balancing the heavy demands of Half His Age alongside another massive, unannounced project. This period transformed her daily routine into an exhausting test of endurance, requiring her to work long, grueling hours that routinely stretched until 2 in the morning, dedicating the fresh, early hours of her days to Waldo's complex journey before shifting her mental focus to her other literary responsibilities. She abandoned traditional, rigid daily word count goals because she quickly realized that prioritizing raw volume often diluted the emotional strength and structural precision of her prose. Choosing instead to focus entirely on the depth and quality of the words, understanding completely that writing 500 exceptional, impactful words was infinitely more valuable than rushing to complete 1,500 mediocre ones. The resulting novel is a masterfully paced, atmospherically dense psychological exploration that centers heavily around the unique, unforgettable figure of a young protagonist named Waldo and her deeply complicated, high-stakes relationship with her older writing instructor, the enigmatic and problematic Mr. Corgi. From the very first conceptual spark on that speeding Japanese bullet train years ago, these two central figures existed in the author's mind with an absolute, unshakable clarity. Their names remaining entirely unchanged through nearly 20 distinct drafts, even as peripheral characters shifted, evolved, and changed identities around them. The choice of the name Waldo itself carries a distinct, sharp, and unconventional weight that immediately sets the tone for the entire narrative, establishing her as an outsider, an enigmatic individual navigating a world filled with subtle traps, unwritten social rules, and massive imbalances of power. As the narrative unfolds, the relationship between Waldo and Mr. Corgi becomes a fascinating, high-stakes chess match of intellect, desire, and emotional manipulation, where the traditional boundaries of the student-teacher dynamic are entirely blurred and rewritten. Mr. Corgi himself notes within the pages of the story that Waldo possesses an incredibly distinct, sharp, and compelling voice in her writing, a meta-textual reflection of the author's own intense journey toward discovering her unique literary identity through years of hidden, unreleased projects. Building this specific narrative architecture was an incredibly complex puzzle that required an immense amount of structural experimentation, particularly within the crucial opening 50 pages of the manuscript, which underwent countless shifts, rearrangements, and extensive chapter movements before the perfect gripping momentum was finally achieved. The middle portion of the novel proved to be equally unpredictable and fluid, transforming significantly as the characters began to take on a strange, autonomous life of their own within the author's subconscious mind. Writers often speak about the surreal moment when their characters begin to resist the predetermined plot points laid out for them, and during the creation of Half His Age, this phenomenon became an absolute reality as Waldo consistently demanded to make choices that completely defied the author's initial predictions. Whenever the text was forced into a specific direction that didn't align with Waldo's authentic internal state, the resulting pages would feel emotionally hollow and false during read-throughs, forcing a total rewrite to honor the character's genuine, unfiltered emotional truth. This organic, highly intuitive development process allowed the narrative tension to build naturally, coiling tightly around the reader like a spring, while the definitive, haunting ending of the novel remained a steady, unshakable North Star that guided the author through the chaotic chaos of the middle chapters. The intense thematic core of Half His Age is deeply rooted in an exploration of raw, unfiltered female rage, a powerful and historically suppressed emotion that the author felt an urgent, deeply personal need to thoroughly investigate and bring to the forefront of modern fiction. For the vast majority of the narrative, Waldo exists in a state of profound, simmering resentment, actively suppressing an immense amount of internal fury and entirely refusing to confront the dark realities of her situation, a coping mechanism that many readers will recognize instantly from their own lives. This exploration of rage is beautifully intertwined with a sharp, uncompromising examination of power dynamics, complex human desire, and the pervasive, insidious nature of modern consumerism, specifically focusing on how deeply ingrained feelings of inadequacy and shame are weaponized by society to guide our daily decision-making processes. By illuminating these heavy, uncomfortable themes, the novel transcends the boundaries of a simple relationship drama, transforming instead into a profound, highly relevant conversation about the heavy psychological costs of emotional suppression and the terrifying necessary process of reclaiming one's autonomy in a world designed to diminish it. The atmosphere of the book is thick with this unresolved tension, keeping the audience balanced on a razor's edge as they witness Waldo navigate the treacherous waters of her youth, building an intense, undeniable momentum that sets the stage for a spectacular and deeply emotional revelation. The final confrontation with one's past is the ultimate threshold of artistic maturity, a defining moment where the painful experiences of youth are finally transformed into a lasting, universal monument of creative expression. As the intricate narrative of Half His Age reaches its definitive, stunning conclusion, the full depth of Waldo's psychological journey is laid entirely bare, revealing a profound and moving transformation that mirrors the author's own spectacular evolution in the real world. Jennette McCurdy's bold leap into the unpredictable realm of fiction represents far more than just a simple career transition. It is a declaration of absolute artistic independence, a masterful proof that a creator can successfully shatter the rigid, predetermined boundaries imposed upon them by the entertainment industry and emerge as a truly singular literary force. By fully exploring the dark, heavy themes of suppressed female rage and the insidious nature of power imbalances, the novel provides a vital, deeply necessary mirror for a society that frequently demands young women remain agreeable, silent, and compliant in the face of profound emotional injustice. The striking climax of Waldo's story serves as a powerful, resonant catalyst for a much larger, global conversation about the immense value of confronting our deepest, most uncomfortable internal storms, rather than burying them beneath a polished veneer of social acceptability. To truly appreciate the incredible magnitude of this achievement, one must consider the formidable literary influences that quietly helped shape the unique contours of this sharp, uncompromising prose style over many years of silent study. When presenting her vision to publishers, the very first name that surfaced from the author's mind was the celebrated novelist Tom Perrotta, whose remarkable ability to dissect the complex, dark undercurrents of suburban life has left an indelible mark on contemporary American literature. In a magnificent, deeply emotional full-circle moment that felt almost surreal to the author, Perrotta himself provided a glowing endorsement for Half His Age, validating years of isolated, exhausting hard work and signaling her official arrival into the upper echelons of modern fiction writing. Alongside Perrotta, the uncompromisingly raw, fiercely avant-garde voice of Ottessa Moshfegh served as a powerful guiding light, inspiring a total willingness to look directly into the messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes grotesque realities of human behavior without a single hint of hesitation or apology. Furthermore, the blunt, beautifully simplistic phrasing and minimalist sentence structures of Charles Bukowski heavily informed the sharp, rhythmic pacing of the novel, allowing the narrative to deliver its emotional punches with maximum efficiency and a complete absence of unnecessary, distracting literary pretense. These varied literary threads are woven together with absolute precision, creating a cohesive, deeply atmospheric cinematic experience that forces the reader to look backward at their own lives through a lens of profound emotional honesty. The universal brilliance of the book lies in its uncanny ability to connect deeply with readers who are significantly older than the 17-year-old protagonist, tapping effortlessly into the shared collective memory of what it truly feels like to be young, vulnerable, and completely overwhelmed by a world that demands too much too soon. We have all, at one point or another, been that fragile teenager standing on the precipice of adulthood, desperately suppressing our natural instincts, hiding our justified fury, and making short-sighted decisions driven by a deep, manufactured sense of personal inadequacy and consumerist shame. By stepping back into that volatile chronological space with the steady, matured hand of an experienced writer, the novel allows us to re-examine our past vulnerabilities, not with regret, bitterness, or lingering embarrassment, but with a deep, healing sense of genuine human compassion. It reminds us that processing the heavy traumas of our younger years is a lifelong, continuous journey, and that we are often only capable of fully understanding the complex dynamics of our past when we have achieved the emotional distance and safety of the present moment. Now that Half His Age has been officially unleashed into the global cultural landscape, the overwhelming anticipation surrounding its release has transformed into an outpouring of profound critical admiration and deep reader connection. The book stands proudly on the shelves of bookstores everywhere as a tangible testament to what can be achieved when a dedicated artist completely refuses to be defined by their history, their losses, or the narrow perceptions of a celebrity-obsessed public. It is a stunning, unforgettable debut that completely rewards the intense patience of its readers, delivering a narrative that is as intellectually stimulating as it is emotionally devastating, leaving an indelible imprint on the heart long after the final page has been turned. For anyone who has ever felt the terrifying urge to burn down their old life and build something completely authentic from the ashes, Waldo's journey offers a beautifully written, uncompromising blueprint of survival, reclamation, and ultimate creative triumph. As this remarkable first chapter of fiction draws to a close, the world watches with bated breath to see where this extraordinary, fearless literary voice will choose to take us next, knowing with absolute certainty that the journey will be nothing short of spectacular. Do not miss the opportunity to experience this powerful psychological breakthrough for yourself, as Half His Age is available right now, inviting you to submerge yourself entirely in a story that will undoubtedly challenge, provoke,